Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael debate and deliberate the most ubiquitous aspects of many topics, and this topic is Michael's, and it is what, Michael?
The Mount Rushmore of Mother Nature's revenge on this this Earth Day. Is that what
Earth
today
Day.
is?
Yeah. Part of Earth Month. Yeah. I am fascinated by this topic, even just because I'm fascinated. Like we have dealt with, I guess, individuals. I'm not going to say they're fictitious, such as Père Noel, Santa Claus, or the devil, or things like that on this podcast. And Mother Nature is a character or a concept, depending on how we're going to approach it. Maybe just the idea of nature, but we're saying Mother Nature. So I was really fascinated when doing the slightest amount of research and understanding that there are different depictions of this concept throughout the ages, and that sometimes Mother Nature was in charge of just what was on the surface, but there was like other creatures that controlled what was underneath the earth.
Oh, sure, the lizard people.
The lizard people, yeah. Or even just the concept of nature as being humans being something somehow separate from it is the product of this newer manifestation of people who have these tools that can actually harm nature, fire, or creating floods, or doing things that could actually impact nature. It was the first time people actually kind of thought of nature as something separate than us, because it needed to be evaluated separately. Are we doing the right thing for nature? So I found it fascinating.
Well, that's kind of how I came up with the idea for this topic today was, two reasons. One, kind of living through this last year of this pandemic and seeing just different stories and people referring to this as like nature's revenge against man. And I thought, well, that's a little heavy-handed. These sorts of diseases happen, and they've been happening for forever. And, whether it was the flu of the pandemic of 1918, or, the plague, diseases happen, and they happen often. I don't think that they are specifically a thinning out of the population as some people seem to describe it. But then I'd been watching a bunch of like Godzilla movies, and those are seemingly depicted as kind of what Jeff was referring to as like these, monstrous beasts who were put on this earth to potentially return things to a state of kind of primordial, to kind of rid the earth of mankind because we've fucked it up.
Yeah.
Past a point. And so of course a giant lizard and a monkey have to punch each other. But I don't know. I just thought of just depictions of either Mother Nature's, like, whatever, her wrath. I think often Mother Nature is like seen as a nurturing character, or someone that is like taking care of all that life on the planet. But then at the same time, don't fuck with Mother Nature at the same time.
Okay, Ricardo, what is your first choice?
Guys, this show has gone to the birds.
Oh, geez.
I mean, literally. My first choice is Alfred Hitchcock's 1963
great.
Thriller, The Birds. At the same time, it's one of my favorite, somewhat same hand, one of my favorite Alfred Hitchcock films, and also clearly one of the most ridiculous of all Alfred Hitchcock films. And what I love about this movie, and what it, in the context of Mother Nature's revenge, is that we never really get a clear understanding of why the birds are attacking everybody. Is it because they're upset with the way that humans are treating nature? Is it that they didn't get enough birdseed that week? Could be
all of the birdseed. All of the birdseed was confiscated by Acme and is currently in a warehouse being doled out to Wile E. Coyotes just trying to capture one bird.
Exactly.
Is there a tiny vial of red fluid that they keep bowing down to try to consume a little bit of, and missing it A little bit with their little beak.
I just watched a YouTube kind of mini documentary about the birds, and I'm fascinated by the special effects that went into making the movie. Some of the shots, like they shot most of it at the Universal Studios lot, but for the kind of higher up shots where you'd see the town of Bodega Bay itself, it was a combination of the actual footage from Universal Studios, and then they fleshed it out with paintings. So it's basically half painting, half real shot.
Yeah.
With the birds flying around, kind of green I guess back then rotoscoped into the shots.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times they did things like tying live birds to the back of kids' collars, so the bird would then attack said kids. So it was kind of a mix, of practical
a mix of the cutting edge visual effects
and child abuse. Kind of a mix of those two.
Wow. I always like in movies, they usually use birds to depict something that is kind of more connected to like a danger around us, and they're more like intuitive. Like I'm thinking of like in maybe Jurassic Park, or even in like one of these Godzilla movies. They're always like flying away from danger. They're flocking, they're moving in a way that they know something's happening. And you always see birds moving before humans do. And humans are always like looking up and being like, what are those birds doing? Why is every bird flying away? And then, a dinosaur comes out of nowhere.
They're literally usually the canaries in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good.
And
good point.
in this case, they're quite the opposite. And just that shot of as they're trying to walk, the final kind of scene is the survivors are trying to walk to their car, and all of the birds are just kind of masked, and they're just walking very slowly and hoping none of them makes a move on them. Again, I think if someone would have come forward and said, well, there was some sort of problem with their food that led to a non-neurotypical response, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have been as terrifying as having no idea why these birds attacked. And it kind of makes you realize there's a crap load of birds out there. And if they ever decide to, if they turn on us, we're dead. And that's true with a lot of animals.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. If these animals ever figure out that if they just band together, they can come after us en masse, we're screwed, guys. That could even be like feral cats. Like if all the feral cats in the world decided to turn on humans, we're fucked.
Yeah.
Big time.
Do we think Hitchcock had a later career in which he had kind of dressed up other genres, like the sci-fi disaster movie where giant radiated ants, like them, or like the 50-foot woman, this where nature gone amok, like Ben or Willard or the Day of the Triffids. Right. Seemed like Hitchcock had a way of taking a B picture genre and adding A-list actors to it, and then making it suspense. And it seemed like he did just that with the birds,
Yeah, there's almost no way that this movie works if it's somebody other than Hitchcock directing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like even a very good filmmaker, I think, would have struggled to find the right balance. It's also a very funny movie in some ways. Underneath the kind of horror aspect of it, it's still got some of Hitchcock's humor that kind of seeps through it.
Yeah.
So I think just getting that balance right was something that was very, very Hitchcockian.
Is there a sin that happens at the beginning? Think of a Poltergeist, that film where these corpses are graves of these corpses are harmed, and so that's kind of the sin that kind of triggers some of what happens in the later parts or justifies it. Is there anything bad that happens? Like, is there a crime? Like, I know in like Psycho, there's money stealing and stuff. There's sometimes these characters who kind of pretending to be decent in Hitchcock things do something a little bit naughty.
Yeah, no, there's nothing really. I mean, there's kind of a meet cute at a pet store between Tippi Hedren's character and Rod Taylor's character, where it kind of establishes the two characters. But beyond that, not really. No.
Well, the Acme birdseed shortage.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
That's the big crime.
That's the problem.
What a fun! You can't get much classier than Hitchcock. We'll see what Michael does. What do you got, Winfield?
Mine is just the reclamation of human habitats by nature. I love when humans move out of a particular area and all of a sudden plant life just starts growing back in almost immediately. Where I love the depiction of that in like kind of the future movies, kind of like post-apocalyptic movies where like you'll see like giant skyscrapers starting to get overrun with vines, and how just the earth just starts to claim back, just starts to crawl back and pull things back from like a man-made world to something that's more akin to something more naturalistic. Whether it's, you see this, like I said, in like sci-fi movies where like the world is suddenly overrun again and all of the geodesic domes are covered with plant life, or like oh god, what's the one I'm thinking of, like Logan's Run, where like the capital of the United States has been clawed back with vines and overgrown again because mankind hasn't kind of tended to nature. Or like even things like old abandoned malls, or just like pictures of like parts of what like abandoned parts of Detroit look like, just when people aren't living there for any given time. Nature just comes back almost right away and it's just like, I'm growing through this cement, this sidewalk. All this is rock and plants. They're like, we know how to get through rock. Water knows how to erode rock. We are gonna just come back no matter what you build. It can be concrete or steel, or it can be a mall. And I just love nature constantly. We're never going to defeat it. It doesn't matter if we blow this place up with nuclear bombs. Nature, mother nature is just going to find a way to restore itself to some part of itself. It's so much older than mankind. I keep thinking, let me just finish. I keep thinking of this one place kind of near where I live. It's this thing that has been dubbed by our good friend Browntown called megaweed. It is this one plant that has existed in front of like a Yum Yum Donuts, that it would constantly get cut down and then it would come back. It would get cut down to nothing and it would just keep coming back and coming back. It would take 3 months or 6 months. And I think eventually the people just stopped cutting it down because like, we can't defeat this. Just let it grow. It's just megaweed is coming. Megaweed is going to always be there. And I think they just gave up on it.
It even happened in Chernobyl. I mean, I remember.
I have that written down too. Yeah.
Yeah. That there was, the what they call it, the Chernobyl exclusion zone, which is this big part of the Ukraine that had been contaminated, not livable for humans. And so since everyone kind of abandoned it, it's now become this huge nature preserve. And no, there are not blinky, there's no fish with 3 eyes or anything like that. It's just this legitimate, it's too bad, really. But yeah, it's just this large nature preserve, and it's kind of fascinating that could come from that. Even in the midst of something as tragic and monumental as a nuclear meltdown, something like that could still survive and thrive under those conditions.
Yeah, it is funny, all the arguments about the and what humans are doing to the environment and the environmental crisis. It's really just a human crisis. I mean, we're eradicating species at an alarming rate, and those will not return likely. But if humans were to be gone, you get about 3 generations, and then the planet's going to bounce back.
Yeah, that's funny. I haven't really thought of Earth Day as a human construct. Like, the idea of it to protect the Earth, but it's really to protect the humans on the Earth.
Yeah.
Buy yourself another few years, buy yourself some more lifetime.
Yeah.
The Earth is going to be fine.
Yeah.
You might kill a bunch of animals, but other ones are going to evolve and grow into something else. And the dinosaurs are, up in heaven because we know that's where they are. They're just up there laughing at us, being like, we ruled for millions of years and you specks are nothing.
Nothing.
You think your K Earth 101 Earth Day down at Santa Monica Pier is going to raise an extra $1.2 million to save you guys, you clowns.
The first Jurassic, I guess it's the only Jurassic Park book. I don't know. Did he write The Lost World? Was that a Crichton book? Well, anyway,
he wrote like 3 of them.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I remember in kind of the preamble of it when we knew reading it, and you knew the dinosaurs were coming. We knew what this book was about. But in the earlier chapters, there's a zoologist who's talking about the aggressiveness of the flora, the plants and the green things on this planet. And before we started erecting this concrete jungle we live in, nature was running wild, but it was also nature versus nature. These plants are aggressively advancing their territory and not just growing, but kind of like trying to outgrow each other and take out each other. So as soon as all the buildings get knocked down, then just the melee keeps going amongst all these plants trying to win out in
that's the real Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
It's the fern versus ficus.
Yeah. Okay, what's your second one, Richard Manfred?
So you want to talk about aggressive plants?
Oh yeah, let's get going.
Let me tell you about some aggressive plants here. How about plants that want to kill you?
Oh,
I'm talking about
I smoked some of that. I smoked some of that in college.
Yeah.
The Happening?
The Happening.
Okay.
M. Night Shyamalan's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad movie with Mark Wahlberg as a professor, which tells you about all you need to know about where we're at in the movie right there. If you haven't seen it, I can either highly recommend it or heartily tell you to stay away from it. Depends on what your tolerance level is for this sort of thing. But essentially the plot of the movie is that plants have decided to start releasing neurotoxins that convince people to kill themselves. And this is happening all up and down the northeast corridor of the country. And the whole movie is about people trying to escape and trying to figure out why this is happening. And it's just incredibly dumb. It's just one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen half of and then gave up on because even I couldn't make it through it.
Is this like some tomatoes or like an asparagus plant or whatever? What kind of plants are they?
I think they're mainly flowering type plants, but and ferns and things like that. I think anything that gives off like a pollen or a nectar or anything like that.
Yeah.
Anything that can be kind of transmitted through the air.
Was there any apparent metaphor like, oh, Night is like showing plants, but we really know what this is about? It's about communism, or it's about something like, was there something
think so.
bigger? Really?
I
Wow.
don't think so. I don't think there's anything like that. I think it's more about, I think it was his attempt at a climate change movie, or a movie about how we better be careful if we don't protect the environment.
Yeah.
Obviously in this case, nature will literally kill all of us.
Wow.
And it's just, there's silly scenes. Like at one point, there's footage of a guy like walking into a lion enclosure at a zoo, and there's just all sorts of like weird, wacky suicide deaths. It's, I don't know. I if you haven't seen, I was hoping one of you guys had seen it.
No,
because it is hard. It is hard to explain.
I feel like the when I was 12 or so, I found the Twilight Zone, and it took me, I think 4 years of watching them and seeing them all, and then seeing the pattern to kind of realize that these cautionary tales were at first experienced in a very profound way, but then they became just kind of like corny and and melodramatic and a little bit maudlin and heavy-handed. And I felt like M. Night Shyamalan went. It took him 3 years to get to that place from profoundly jaw-dropping. Oh my God, I didn't see the ending coming. To maybe 5 years to just hacky with the happening and the lady in the water. What was the last one? There's like a Paul Giamatti in like a apartment swimming pool.
Lady in the Water.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull up his filmography real quick.
He just did that so fast.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround from Boy Genius to
Yeah, I think that's the power of Final Cut, not the editing software, but like the fact that you are the whole shebang. You, the
Right.
screenwriter, the director, the producer, editor, and the studio can't say dick. Now,
I think there's also like a an aspect of trying to like out clever yourself constantly. And I think I think the one that kind of broke people was The Village.
Okay.
Because
yes.
I think that there was an aspect of The Village that seemed quasi, it was based on like kind of like this supernatural sort of setting, but then it turned out to be kind of like not so much. And then you're like, oh, that was it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then I guess maybe it went down after that. But his first like 3 movies were like, or the first ones that were like really acclaimed, The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and Signs, were all like quite very good. Signs, maybe not so much. I enjoy it quite a bit, but
Scared the hell out of me.
yeah, it had good fun, scary aliens shit in there.
Yeah, I just love the idea. I mean, I would love to know what the pitch meeting was. When M. Night Shyamalan goes to his studio and says, "I want to make a movie about killer plants."
You guys hate trees, right? Like me?
And they would have gone, "You want to remake Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?" You would go, "No. Well, kind of, but not really."
That's funny.
Winfield, what's your second choice?
My second choice. Now, this might not sound like a big one, but this is I was kind of staying within like the Mother Earth kind of thought of things, but small earthquakes. Now,
Damn it! Why couldn't you have said little earthquakes? Then I could have made a Tori Amos joke. But go on.
Well, because God, sometimes I just don't come through, Richard. But small earthquakes are the ones that are just scary enough and just remind you kind of who's in charge enough. Like they don't really break anything. They usually wake you up at 4 a.m. They really kind of fuck with your sense of like what's going on. And you can almost get used to them a little bit too much. I think there's very much like a parental figure, a mother figure saying, all right, I'm going to give you to the count of 3. I'm going to give you 1, 2. And they're small little warnings to let you know that like there's something big potentially coming, and they kind of just leave you on edge, and they let you know that there's like something bigger that's in charge here that can really destroy things. They can really fuck you up, and you kind of start getting used to them, and then it gets a little bit bigger, and then there's like one, and like if you're not used to them, they're like terrifying. Like what was like people that don't live in an earthquake zone or in like a like along like a major fault, and you just come to a place that has that, you're not quite used to it. It's like really fucking weird, even though like you're used to tornadoes or like hurricanes or other crazy things.
Right.
But like the earthquake is just this thing. It's like, oh, the entire part of this earth just shakes violently, really quickly, really suddenly. And you're like, oh my God, what is this? God, I hate this planet.
Well, it's nature striking without warning.
Yeah.
I mean, with a hurricane, you've got several days to know that it's coming. It's probably going to hit this area. Even with a tornado, you know that there's thunderstorms. This is tornado watch. Be on the lookout for it. There's nothing with an earthquake other than your pets acting weird, which I don't think is a real thing. But let's just pretend that it was. Other than your pets acting weird, there's really nothing. There's no like foreshadowing of an earthquake's going to happen. And by the way, I love the meme of the patio furniture with one chair knocked down.
Yeah.
That's always used whenever there's an earthquake in like Washington, Virginia, or something like that. And it's always, I survived the Virginia earthquake 2021. That's a popular one.
Now I seem to rush to Facebook after I feel what I thought was an earthquake. You never know, is it an earthquake or did my cat just jump on the bed? The little ones. I think it's a funny thing that I go there to see if anybody else reported it, but it does feel like instead of getting shot at, somebody just threw a bullet at you, and it just kind of bounces off your chest and lands on. It's like next time that could be.
Yeah, and their other hand, they're holding the gun.
Oh, they're gun. I got shoot you.
They're holding the gun, but they're throwing bullets at you. You're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Small earthquakes often create a phenomenon that I like to refer to as the earthquake tough guy, where the people come out and they're like, I didn't even feel that one. And it's like, oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah. You don't need to talk about how tough you were to not feel a particular 3.2 earthquake that was down in, Los Olivos or whatever. Like it's all right.
Yeah. I didn't feel that one. I was bouncing around on these spring shoes I got from Acme Corporation to try to catch the Roadrunner.
I wound up with, and maybe this is a native Californian thing, but whenever a small earthquake hits, my first thought is, I sure hope that was centered near us and wasn't centered like in San Francisco, and we're feeling it all the way down here. Because for all I know, it could be a massive earthquake 500 miles away that we're just feeling like it's
right.
So that's always, with a small earthquake, that's always my first thought. And I think I don't think about like, boy, that was a pretty strong one, or I didn't really feel that one or anything like that. First thought is always, oh crap, I sure hope that wasn't something far away.
Oh yeah, a fatal typhoon up the coast somewhere.
Or a tsunami is coming. Yeah.
My initial thing now that I have a kid is to just immediately run into the room to see if he's like okay, and of course he sleeps through everything. He's 3 going on 4, and like he just sleeps through every small earthquake, and I'm the one whose heart is beating as fast as it can. I'm just like, oh god, this kid in his bunk bed is fine. He's in like literally the safest place in the house. Nothing can fall on him, and he's just 100% asleep. I'm like, okay, well, good. Ultimately,
all right. We are at our halftime, and I'm gonna beg you to celebrate Earth Day the best possible way by listening to past episodes of the Mount Rushmore podcast. Nobody has done more for the environment than Richard Manfredi and Michael Winfield. The hot air and greenhouse gas that we have created by speaking, droning monotonously on for 5 years now.
Imagine if we'd been like mining Bitcoin this entire time instead of just talking nonsensically into microphones. We're a boon for the environment at this point.
We'd be $5 ahead if we had. So do that. So go back, download, rate and review past episodes. We would really appreciate it. Share Mount Rushmore podcast with your friends. It's reduce your carbon footprint by going out to the Mount Rushmore social sites, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and posting about how we plant 1 tree for every download. We do. One figurative tree is planted mentally by the hosts of the podcast. Every time you download it.
They're rubber trees.
A rubber tree.
We plant them and they just sort of sit there. But...
They sit there. That's it. Yeah. So do that. We appreciate it. And all those things. And then suggest topics if you could. Work up the gumption to make your voice heard. And let us know what topic you would love us to skewer with our rapier wit. You could do that on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And now we're back. And now I guess, Richard, So Richard of Clan Freddy is going to say his third.
So I love me a disaster film. I remember being a kid watching like Towering Inferno
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
Earthquake and all those sort of movies.
Mhm.
And for a long time, my favorite one was Volcano, which was one of the best dumb movie going experiences I think I've ever had,
Mhm.
because it's just such a big, dumb, and stupid movie, and not in a happening way where it thinks that it's. I mean, I think Volcano is very clearly kind of in on the joke.
Hmm.
It's at least not trying to be some think piece about environmental
Mhm.
consciousness or whatever. So that was one of my favorite movies. And then I saw a little film called 2012,
Hmm.
which, oh boy, if you guys have not seen this one, stop what you're doing. Pull your car off to the side of the road at the Slauson cutoff. Stop, get out of your car, cut off your Slauson, get back in the car, drive somewhere where they have a rental, rent this movie. It's unbelievable. Stars John Cusack as a limo driver who is trying to save his family from the destruction caused by, and I need to make sure I'm going to go to Wikipedia to get this right, that there is a new type of neutrino from a huge solar flare that is heating the Earth's core, and it's eventually going to cause the crust to essentially melt and give way.
Now he was also he was a writer, right? Was he
Yeah, like a
a
science fiction writer.
I've seen okay, he was a science fiction writer. So I have seen this movie, and as you're speaking, it's slowly kind of fading back into memory. And I remember him having like a box full of books in the back of his limo, right?
Yes. Yes.
And he was also doing the classic. I mean, this is kind of off topic, but he was like estranged from his family, right? He was divorced from the wife, sort of thing,
Yes.
but like a
Mhm.
good dad at the same time, but also kind of a loser because he was. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the nature of the movie sets up so that literally every type of natural disaster that can befall Earth happens in about a 24-hour period, including a 10.9 earthquake in Los Angeles that causes most of Los Angeles to fall into the Pacific Ocean, which I'm not quite sure about the.
That's one of those that scene in that movie. This movie is one of those things as like a native uh, Los Angelian, uh, Los Angelino. I can't even think of what the right word is. As a native of the area, that makes you crazy watching like none of like the logistics of where they're traveling make sense.
Yes.
Like it's one of those you can't get here from there sorts of movies. Like, why is he flying that plane over? No, that wouldn't fall. No,
And they
get out of
managed.
here.
I appreciate that they managed to turn the earthquake into an excuse for essentially a high-speed car chase between John Cusack's limo and the Earth, which is buckling and collapsing behind him, and he has to drive this limo 80 miles per hour down suburban streets in Los Angeles, which is anyone in Los Angeles knows that's impossible. This thing is doing Dukes of Hazzards jumps over buckled sections of road, landing like it's no problem, no suspension damage, no blown out tires, just keep on going. At some point later on in the movie, they're at Yellowstone when a massive super volcanic explosion happens, and you guessed it, he has to outrun it in his car. This movie, only has a couple of ideas, but it really pounds those ideas into your brain. And I just think 2012 for me is the most disaster film of all time.
Mm.
It just has more disaster, more bang for your buck. It is a brilliant dumb movie. And I would once again just please encourage everyone, if you haven't seen it yet, turn off your brain for an hour and a half and go however long, 2.5 hours, because it's an epic. Take that back. Just turn your brain off and watch it.
It ties into a couple of like kind of fun, interesting things. Like 2012 was one of the many like predicted to be the end of the world type years. I believe that was why it's called 2012, is because whether it was a the Mayans or Nostradamus or one of those sorts of people had like this is the year when everything ends. But it also has that thing that I really like is when like the governments and powers that be have secretly planned for the end of the world, and they have like the real Mona Lisa all locked up and ready to go in their flying fortress that can withstand anything. They have all the real treasures of the world already secured, and all the rich people have, you know, their champagne and caviar, and they're ready to be brought onto their like ark. I'm sure it's called the ark.
It is called the Ark.
Of course it's called, yeah, yeah.
Like I said, not a lot of ideas in this movie, but they hammer away at them.
It just has that sort of like the preparation for the end of the world sort of stuff that I like.
It also has the scientist who is trying to warn everybody before something happens. That's another another trope that it has.
Yeah. That he's they don't believe him because of extreme beliefs and yada yada.
Blah, blah, blah.
Which every QAnon person thinks that they are, you know, or every
Yeah, this movie, if you were already in the QAnon head mindset, I think would do nothing but give you even more fantastic ideas to spread on the internet.
Yeah. It's funny, as much as climate change, as much as, I don't know, people seem to be patriotic for this country, they sure don't like the planet. Give a fuck about the planet. I feel that's really interesting.
No, there's something where there's like this belief that somehow we're going to be okay even if the planet goes to shit.
Yeah.
Somehow we'll figure out a way to live in a big dome or something. I don't know what people think.
You know, it's interesting though, John Cusack is one of the most everymanish leading men there is. There's always I think everybody thinks like, although actually I think he's kind of a board certified badass who's done some martial arts films. I think everybody thinks they could probably, I don't know, not you'd want to punch John Cusack or Paul Rudd, but he just seems like he's not The Rock, you know. So he's somebody you can go, yeah, I can relate to him in this very bad situation where every natural phenomenon is trying to punch him in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Winfield.
My third choice. What would you say is some of the most beautiful areas of the world?
Cleveland.
Provo,
Utah. Secaucus, New Jersey. Oh,
are you
Hawaii?
Are you
there you go.
Beautiful
Hawaii.
Scenic Provo, Utah? Because I will come after you for that. Go ahead.
I'm anti-Provo. You said it with the very first thing, Jeff, when you were being serious. Hawaii.
Okay.
Beautiful place, right?
Yeah.
Man, that place can get fucked up by a volcano real quick.
Oh.
I love how Mother Nature just will create the most beautiful places, but at the same time, there's like a volcano just lurking that's just ready to just wreck shop.
Mm-hmm.
A volcano is just like any given time, this thing is just going to start spewing out molten lava and melting things, and you can't stop it.
Yeah.
It's just going to change the landscape. It's going to melt everything. I was really excited, Richard, when you mentioned the movie Volcano earlier, and then was obviously excited when you transitioned to 2012. But the idea of just molten lava spewing out of the earth and just destroying things is so amazing. And just, it is the earth remaking itself however it wants. You can't stop it. There's no like anti-volcano bomb. You can't sprinkle like a cat litter type substance on top of it to like slow it down. Mm-hmm. It just does its thing. Mm-hmm. You know, over the last couple of weeks, there's been some like big eruptions in Iceland, which is another like crazy beautiful place that like the volcano is just like, well, you know what? Now I'm just going to wreck things for a little bit, and you can't do anything about it. And then down in like the Caribbean, I believe, like the island chain with St. Vincent, there's been another.
Love St. Vincent. Love her, by the way.
There's been, another kind of volcano that has caused people to like evacuate, and just exploding plumes of ash and volcanic matter. And it just, the earth has such a way of just reminding reminding you that it's just gonna do things and you have no way of stopping it. And I don't know. I just think volcanoes are just so so terrifying.
Well, and the whole you're sitting on a string of islands, and they're amazingly beautiful because they're at this perfect place in the middle of the ocean. Like, how did those islands get there? Volcanic activity created them millions of years ago.
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to happen again. Is it? Fuck yeah, it is.
I find this to be a corollary to Australia, a beautiful country that I've been to. Not to humble brag about it, but I have. So there. But also the home of every most deadliest animal you can possibly find, whether it's stingrays, jellyfish, sharks, doesn't matter. I'm sure somehow the opossums are the most deadly opossums in the world.
Oh, Richard, somehow you have magically teed up my fourth choice whenever we get there.
Oh,
yeah.
Exciting.
Well,
yeah. Heaven and hell, same place.
Yeah, I do like too that volcanoes and like this is just like an anecdote. One of the things that kind of led to like the French Revolution was like an Icelandic volcanic eruption, because it like erupted for 8 months and spewed all this ash over like Northern Europe and caused all these people to go hungry because they couldn't grow any crops, and it was really hard to move ships in and out of the harbor, and all these different things that happened because of a volcano in Iceland. And it just led to the people rising up, and part of the reason to just like overthrow the government, because nobody had any food and everyone was just starving. And it was just like, okay, thanks, volcano several hundred miles away.
What was there? There's another volcano that they created a blight, or one of the water turned to blood. I think that was a volcano too, or it was like rust in the water or something. Okay, well, Manfredi, your final choice.
So we are talking about Mother Nature's revenge, are we not? That's what we're talking about. So I think it would be tough to finish this topic without discussing a movie with the revenge straight in its name. I'm of course talking about Jaws: The Revenge, the fourth and final movie of the Jaws trilogy or Jaws series. This movie concerns the great white shark that is terrorizing the now widow of Martin Brody, the police chief on Amity Island. This shark manages to stalk her from Amity Island all the way to the Bahamas. It follows her. Sharks don't do that. Again, there is a pattern in my choices. I think I had enough goodwill built up from the birds that I could choose 3 really bad movies. And as bad as The Happening is, Jaws the Revenge might be even worse. Somehow the shark has like a psychic connection with Ellen Brody, so she can sense when it's around. Somehow this one specific shark goes thousands of miles in the ocean just to show up in the Bahamas, where there are no great white sharks because it's warm water, blah, 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 just to terrorize this poor woman. It's unbelievable. It's truly a piece of cinema magic.
I have met the director of this film.
You have?
Joseph Sargent. He directed this Hallmark Hall of Fame movie, the sequel to Sarah Plain and Tall. And I think I might have been in the Bahamas when they were filming this, because we, on high school for spring break in 1987, we went to the Bahamas, and some kids were saying, yeah, they're filming some movie or something.
Oh, that must have been it then.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's a movie that manages to be worse than Jaws 3D.
Yeah.
Which is an impressive task in and of itself. It also manages to be the most impressive cash grab that Michael Caine has ever done.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just strictly, I am here Where is my bag of cash? Thank you, goodbye.
Yeah, I've got to
That
pay for my flat in Rio somehow.
Yes.
that that's one of those movies that I don't know if I've seen, but I know everything about. I know exactly how the shark is killed at the end. I
It
know
explodes. It explodes. Spoiler alert. The thing explodes whenever they eventually impale it.
Not cool,
Yeah.
dude.
yeah,
Not just
I was
I'm pretty sure that's not how that works in nature.
they drive it crazy with some sort of like sonar device that makes it jump out of the water, and then it gets impaled on the edge of like his sailboat. I remember it mostly though because of the truly terrible Jaws 4 The Revenge video game for the NES, where like the first level of the game is like diving for conch shells and trying to avoid getting eaten by a shark. And that's how you know that you've got a really terrible video game where you're just like, I've got to learn how to pronounce conch shell. Fuck this. Revenge, the shark. And it's not like explained like the shark is related to Jaws. It's just
Not Jaws Jr. or something. Yeah.
It's just like
Jaws.
it's just like word of mouth has gotten around that like this lady's a husband was really bad news for sharks, and he's like, we got to get him back. It's like a Godfather revenge pick.
This is also, I think, one of the, not that this is apropos to this topic, but it seems like one we might have tackled, series that went from good to camp. You know, like I imagine had Spielberg had Bruce the Shark working through most of that production of that, it might have been a more straight up horror or a thriller movie than it was a psychological thriller, Jaws. But the rest of the movies were just crapola. It got campier faster than Batman, I think, or campier than faster than Bond even.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so before we get into Michael's last choice, Jeff Hopkins is going to say, in Kansas City, there was this show called 41 Treehouse Lane. Channel 41, the UHF channel, which was just funded by local car commercials and things like that, had this character or show called 41 Treehouse Lane, and it was hosted by a local, she was probably a newscaster till she aged out, wearing this crepe paper and felt dress, and she was Mother Nature, and she was the local kitty host. And I was just in love with Mother Nature as a kid. She'd show a Popeye cartoon, or she'd show you how to make a craft out of a toilet paper roll or something like that, and it was just the best thing ever. And then she got replaced by this guy, Ed Mascari, and he turned out to be a boy bother, I think is the parlance I'll use. He was found with some illicit materials on his laptop and soliciting young men. Pretty good story, huh? All right, wrap it up, Winfield.
On that note, Winfield, go.
Clean up my mess.
Holy shit! I have to follow that up with the world's most fucked up animal, the platypus.
What an aberration!
What did this animal do to Mother Nature?
Yes,
that she got her revenge on this poor creature over and over. Either he's one of two things. Either he's the most unfortunate animal that has ever existed, and just Mother Nature is just like dropped every bomb on him, or he's the ultimate survivor. I don't know what it is, but this thing is a fucking nightmare. Could it be the webbed feet, or the giving birth to being a mammal and laying eggs, to having this huge duckbill on your face, to having this weird like talon that extrudes some sort of like toxin, to
fire breath, I think.
It has this weird like, it sees through like echolocation or electrolocation. It's not even echolocation like a dolphin. It like senses like magnetic like electrical signals to like catch things. It's also kind of bioluminescent. It has like all these weird things that you feel like Mother Nature has just been trying to kill this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has done something to Mother Nature over and over. She keeps trying to kill it, and he keeps like surviving and getting through it. And like we haven't seen the last evolution of the platypus. It's going to grow like crazy wings. It's going to do all this crazy shit because of some feud it's currently having with Mother Nature. I don't know. I think Richard, when you touched on like Australia, I got really excited because that entire country, like Australia and like Tasmania and like maybe New Zealand even, man, they're so just far away from everything. Everything is so fucked up there, animal wise.
When the first scientists, I'm reading this through the platypus Wikipedia page. Apparently, the first time scientists examined a preserved platypus body, they just immediately assumed it was a fake that had been sewn together from different pieces of different animals. There was no way for humans to comprehend there could be an animal this fucked up anywhere.
It's crazy. It's like you look at it and you're like, my kid drew that when he was trying to draw something else.
Yeah.
And then that's what he just settled on. It's like, okay, it's like he has this.
Sure, that's a duck. That's a duck. Sure thing. It looks great.
Yeah. We all know what Pokemon are. We all know what Psyduck is. That's what you are. Yeah.
You know how John Williams in the scores for the prequels, didn't he do something where he kind of retro composed Anakin's theme or something based on, forget what it, how
I
did
can
it
tell
work?
you what it, I can
What
tell
was
you
it?
one of the. So if you're watching the end of The Phantom Menace, there's a scene where they're like having this big celebration where like all of the Gungans are parading down the streets of Naboo, and they're leading up with this huge parade up to like present some big trophy, and everyone's celebrating, and the song is being played by like, I think it's called I'm gonna get the name wrong, sorry nerds, but it's like Augie's big band celebration something or other. But the song that's playing at the end is this really up tempo major key song that's like it's the Emperor song, which is in like a lower register and much slower. It's like if you listen to them back to back, it's like it's the same song, and you know the end of The Phantom Menace kind of partially ends on like a smiling Senator Palpatine.
Oh, okay.
And so like, you know, John Williams is the ultimate king of knowing exactly what he wants to do. Just to have the same song and a speeded up tempo, you know, major key versus a minor key. He just.
Well, I thought there was something where like Vader's theme in Star Wars was kind of an amalgam of Amidala's theme and Anakin's theme. So,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with that either.
Well, it makes me wonder: was the platypus the first cool idea that just ended up on the island where the HMS Beagle, parked, and then duck, then otter, then beaver, then all these things were kind of derivative of it? Like, was it like this amazing concept album that some band came out that kind of spurred on all these knockoff groups that came from that? I don't know.
So you're saying the platypus was Weezer, and then like the Rentals came out of the platypus, and it's like, okay, well, we got Friends of P out of that.
Yeah.
And like, okay, well, that's good enough.
These one-offs. Okay. But we look at it and go, you guys are platypus pussies, just ripping off all these other acts, or he's trying to put together an act based on these other things.
I just think it's one of those weird things that like nature has just created out of like, I don't know. It's so fucked up to just look at, and like, and you wonder how it survived. Like, didn't all the wolves just get this thing? It looks so slow moving. Couldn't something have killed this thing off so many millions of years ago? But no.
Yeah.
It's like punishments. It's like Sisyphus pushing that rock up the hill. You have to exist and be constantly changed because Mother Nature hates you so much.
Yeah.
How about now you're laying eggs? Oh, fuck.
Oh my God. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to have like a horn or like antlers. Like what would it just think? Oh God, Friday.
there's a Bill Pete book called The Wingding Dilly, which I have down in the garage for my kid's 4th birthday, which is about like this animal that's like this amalgam of all these different creatures, an elephant nose and these big antlers and all these different things that I'm just dying to read again. And I imagine that that's what it is. Just it's a curse. This animal is just cursed.
All right, dudes, let's do it. Let's just score it up. I just wanted to say, in case anybody is listening, we are pro nature here at the Mount Rushmore podcast. We're not anti-nature.
Okay.
Sorry, I must speak for myself.
When do you change that on us?
Oh, sorry, guys. Speak for myself. So why don't we go with I don't know, because it kind of classed up things. The birds kind of class things up, and because it's going to happen, the reclamation of human habitat by nature. That Starbucks, it's going to be nature. That office building, it's going to be nature in place of it. It's all going to be nature. Why don't we go with small earthquakes, just because it was kind of scary, and because I know the director Joseph Sargent, who directed The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Giuseppe Sargenti is his real name. Jaws: The Revenge. He's one of your people, Richard. He's one of your folk. Is the Manfredi northern or southern?
I believe it's southern.
Oh, a bunch of hoodlums.
Yes, 100%.
All right. This has been the Mount Rushmore of Nature's Revenge, which is, I think, also what it is. No, that's Montezuma's Revenge. Okay, never mind. I, as always, am Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.
We did it. How's your water heater?
Well,